We are live today, May 4th, 2015, for our Responsible Travel Previews and Reviews, our Monday Hangout. This May the 4th be with you, 2015. So greetings, everybody. We're still seeing if some other people are joining us, but I'm very pleased to welcome Greg Volk from Knysna, South Africa, Chris Milnes from perhaps somewhere in Europe, maybe Greece, Andy Hammerman there in Chukchilan, Ecuador, and Ivar Rukl in beautiful Pairnu, Estonia. So greetings, everybody.
Hi, Ron.
Good morning, Ron.
We've had a mess of events, and I'd like to start from the left side of my screen. Who knows what it is for you? Ivar is in Estonia and just came back from the European Tourism Conference. Ivar, and can you tell us about the Euro Eco 15?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? It was a conference in Poland. So third time this kind of tourism gathering.
Tell us about it.
Is my sound okay?
Your sound is okay.
Yeah, it was an event of about 200 people from 15 different countries.
Hey, one second. Excuse me, Ivar. A technical note. For the people who aren't speaking, if you can, mute your microphone. I'm not sure whose microphone is giving us a little bit of feedback. But
I'm sure.
right, we'll work this out. So Ivar, go ahead, please. And you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
It was a 2 days event last Monday and Tuesday. So Chris was there as well, giving some presentation. It was like a lot of discussions, and of course some presentations. So I think it was really good. It was very inspiring meeting.
How many people were attending?
200.
And you told me that one of the best things was that there were representatives for most of the ecotourism groups in Europe?
Yeah, not like all of them, but at least these countries who have ecotourism societies was presented there, except Romania.
Anything else we should know about the event?
Yeah, I'm happy if Chris will continue with his reflection. I liked it very much.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a sec. Andy, you just came back from the ESTC meeting in Ecuador.
Yeah, okay, so I'm from the Black Sheep Inn in Ecuador, and I went to the TIES conference in Quito, and it was interesting to meet people. I don't know, I'm a bit of a virgin to these conferences, so I think I go in with a cynical, skeptical eye, and I came out with the same kind of eye. I didn't have an improved view of the organizations, but it wasn't. There was really great people to meet and put faces together. Like the meeting and the networking, I think is worthwhile. I don't know. I would be happy to answer people's questions about the conference or about the organization the best I can.
Well, you know, we were talking before the conference. There were some questions regarding TIES and the recent resignation of their board of advisors. What did you hear about that?
There's an irony to this. In Ecuador, the president of Ecuador is very powerful, and he was the one, I guess, or through his ministers, that organized the conference. And TIES actually had to sign an agreement to not contact Quito Turismo, because Quito Turismo is represented by the mayor of Quito, who is going to run against the president in the next coming election. And there's a rift between the two different parties. So the mayor of Quito would not be supportive of the president, and the president would not be supportive of the mayor of Quito. So Tai signed an agreement saying, yes, this conference is being put on by the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Turismo and the Ministry of Medio Ambiente, and no contact was allowed to Quito Turismo. But people on the advisory board contacted Quito Turismo and were then told, the advisory board was told, you can't contact them, don't contact them. So that is one of the biggest pieces of why some people started this resignation movement. And it wasn't, I don't think everybody resigned at once. I think a few people actually resigned and then other people jumped on board. But that's the side I heard in Ecuador. I have no idea what the people who actually resigned, what their story is, and it'd be very interesting to try and find out because nobody knows, nobody's heard, nobody's made a statement.
Earlier this year, there was a message posted on the Green Travel Networking on Facebook and another PR post posted online, a news site, talking about their resignation and the creation of something called the Global Ecotourism Forum. And I believe that's being headed by Glenn Jay in Costa Rica. And on Facebook, I invited Glenn to participate in a hangout, and that offer is still open. We'll be happy to hear about that new organization.
I want to contact him and just ask him, very directly, this is what I heard in Quito. Does any of this hold true, or what's your story? And then I want to write to Ties again and ask them. And again, it's just to let people know what's going on. There can't be something that's so bad that they need to hide. I hope not. But in the meantime, that's the way it's easy to look at.
Okay. Anything else to add about the event?
The event was over the top and a huge waste of money. Not my money. I'm talking about the Ministry of Tourism, when they put on a party, and it probably cost $10,000 to put on a one-night party to honor all the guests and attendance of this conference. I don't see the rationale. It's just too much money on band and wine and music and food and decorations. That there's more important things that could be done with that kind of money.
I hear you. Let's see if we can go over to Greg in South Africa.
Well, we had a very, very interesting festival this weekend. We were the hosts to Mr. Gay World, and we were the hosts to an annual event called the the Luri Festival, which is an LGBTI event. And obviously, the Mr. Gay World is self-explanatory. For me, it was interesting to challenge the concept of responsible travel in this regard, specifically marketing to the pink dollar or the pink market. And it really required a mind shift, because traditionally and in the past few hangouts we've been talking about is it ethical to walk with lions and conservation ethics and conservation tourism, and here we had a level or a responsible travel dynamic that was very new to me, but very relevant and worth a discussion.
Very good, very good.
Silence.
Exactly. The question is, where do we follow up on that? I received I was looking at Twitter, and there were a couple posts by yourself and from Martin about this. And I guess what impresses me most, looking at your Twitter feed over the past 4 months, is just the breadth of events that are hosted in Knysna.
Well, I think one of our strategies is to reach certain markets through the events that are held. And to understand the market, the audience that's buying or paying to come to Knysna, what makes Knysna attractive? Now, let's not forget that we've discussed the concept of the area being a very ecologically sensitive area, and we are looking to the tourism dollar to be spent here so that we can create a sustainable dynamic. For those that don't know, Knysna is around about 500 kilometers east of Perth and about 230 kilometers west of Port Elizabeth. So, and we're basically situated in the middle of a national park, surrounded by Afro-montane forests in the north, and in the south we've got the ocean. And the town resides on a massive estuary, which is national park. But the topics that we've been, the topic of responsible travel speaks to various markets and niche markets, and destinations have to understand their markets to make sure that when they reach out to audiences and invite them to come to their destination, they're ready to be able to deliver on the promise. So it's a very interesting debate about the culture that you create. I think back on our big effort in the 1995, 96, 97, 98, when we marketed to the world, telling the world that we were a desirable whale watching or marine mammal destination, and then making sure that you can deliver on the promise. So it does require your destination or your many destinations within a destination to be ready and trained and understand the culture of receiving the target audience.
Beautiful. Agreed 100%. Any other comments? Oh, we lost Greg.
Oh, no.
The wonders of Hangouts. Well, Greg, you're more than invited back. Hopefully you can find that way. Greg's also on his phone. We're using different technologies to connect. Andy, are you on your laptop?
Yeah, I'm on a laptop.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yay, Ivar finally is on his phone, which works. And hopefully the next Hangout we get Chris involved.
I am sitting outdoors. That's why I'm wearing hat. And just now I see the first mosquito.
First mosquito?
Yeah, it's spring here, so it's rather cold still. In the morning it was only a couple of plus degrees.
Ooh, last week it got down to 60 here in Vegas. Chris, we cannot hear you, so keep on writing and typing at us, and we'll be happy to repeat and share things. Speaking to Andy, what I found wonderful from Europe last week was a jury-rigged setup that Ivar had, in which he set up his iPhone, his whatever video phone, and recorded the presentations from the European conference. And again, if we were to compare Ecuador and Europe, well, Ecuador spent what, $25,000 on internet. Ivar, was it free, Ivar, or did you have to buy extra bandwidth juice to do that? That was incredible.
I used the Ustream app, and in order to store the videos, to record them, I paid €4 to Ustream. That was all the cost.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I've used Ustream before with some of the UN conferences I've attended, and just easy to set up the camera and just hack the event. And like yourself, what was really nice was that it wasn't surreptitious. It was, made with a full recognition of the speakers, many of whom have kept on greeting you as you were recording them. That was nice.
I went to the event in Quito, and I sat down, and I thought there was going to be internet, and then there basically was not internet the entire time in the location of the conference. They say that it had something to do with right where the conference was. Ecuador has built a new 911 emergency call center, basically on that same property where the conference was, and for some reason they couldn't give public internet to people because something having to do with the call center, for security of the call center. But yeah, we didn't have internet while we were there, which I guess made it so you would pay attention a little bit more to the presenters instead of, like, doing stuff on your computer.
Well, there's that, Andy, but, if you also create it in the strategy of how you present the program, then you can get people to participate. I mean, I don't know, I remember going to the, what was it called, the Belize event on responsible tourism, and they had internet access, and everyone was doing their own thing, and it was because there was no guidance or leadership. Some of these people, they don't understand, they don't know how to announce a hashtag. Was it ESTC 2015 or ESTC 15? Whereas if you look at the Responsible Tourism Conference in South Africa, where I met Martin, Responsible Tourism in Cities, it was, here's the login, here's your password, here's the hashtag. You set all of these things up, but I understand that I'm at the the bleeding edge of that type of communication, but 5 years later, it's not bleeding edge. It's something that everybody else is doing. Why is the tourism sector being so slow in picking this up? Do you want people to know about the event or not? And what Chris Milnes just wrote, there's no excuse for not hacking events. It was easy and effective. And by Ivar is live streaming this, and it's archived there on Ustream. He's transferring it to YouTube. We can see the presentations that Chris made or Ivar made. We can see the presentations Anna Pollock made, and Mary, and everybody else. But you have to set that up ahead of time. And where's the strategy? Where's the coordination from the get-go from these events?
Now, Ron, you said something about $25,000 that they invested in internet.
I'm making that up. I have no idea. Let's see if I. No, but excuse me, applause. I am so thrilled that Ama La Vida, Ecuadorian broadcaster, was able to stream the second and fourth days. I mean, again, thank you for sharing some of those presentations. I'm not exactly sure who gave the presentation on Machu Picchu, but that was worth watching, and I'm hoping to be able to promote that some more. Did they record your presentation on toilets, Andy?
No, because I didn't really have a presentation. I made a mistake being the conference virgin that I am. I applied to be a presenter, and it appeared that I was only going to get, like, I don't know, half hour or 45 minutes, including questions and answers. So they said you could do that, or you could have a full hour. So I chose the full hour, but what I didn't realize is I chose being a poster presenter. And a poster presenter means you just put up your poster, and whoever walks by looks at it, and it's for an hour that they have this exhibit. So I didn't know what I was doing, and I chose poster because I thought I'd get more time. In the end, actually, my poster presentation was maybe better than having a half-hour presentation because it got access to way more people. It was in a public place. Lots of people walked by it, looked at it, and I could talk to them anytime, really, not just during that 1 hour period.
No, these terms are kind of new to a lot of us, and probably should be rethought. Can people videotape it? If you can't stream it live, can somebody record it? And again, that's on my wish list. I'm not, I understand it's not widely available, but why the heck not? You have all of these students, all of these interns. Why aren't all of the poster presentations online?
Yeah, no, it'd be easy to take a photo of each poster and stick it up online. That would be very easy. My presentation, I think, went very well because I brought a composting toilet with me. So next to my poster about composting toilets, I set up a composting toilet, and I sat on it. In a way, it was very visual to let people think about and see what could be done in terms of composting.
Hey, going back down memory lane, Andy, we were traveling in Ecuador roughly at the same time 30 years ago, and you visited a place. We visited a place separately called Al-Andalus.
Shut up. Katie says, excuse me for a minute.
Go ahead. We'll come back and talk more about toilets with Andy in a second. But best indoor toilets, Black Sheep.
The reason why I am outdoors is that I cannot do it inside with my kids running and
Understood. You have to find a place that's relatively quiet. Good on you, Ivar. Andy, I was just saying, we visited Al-Andalus. And was that your first experience with really high quality, beautiful indoor composting toilets? Or have you seen it elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that was one of my first experience. We saw Al-Andalus, who to me was really one of the pioneers in ecotourism, not just in Ecuador, but in the world. Because back 22 years ago when I visited there, or 23 years ago, they had building out of natural materials, they had organic gardens, they had composting toilets, they had gray water systems, they were working with their community, very interesting architecture with bamboo because that's their local resource. So we thought we're going to build something in the Sierra, in the mountains of the Andes in Ecuador, that if they can do something like that, and at the time I thought they were expensive. I don't think they were really that expensive, but I was a backpacker. And we thought we could do the same thing. So we used them as an ideal and a model to create the Black Sheep Inn. You don't really call it copying, but it's like if they could do it, we could do it. And Al-Andalus now does not exist. They've had some big changes. The buildings are still there. I visited last year once, but it's not open to the public, and I'm not sure if they're going to start up again.
What happened to the people who started Al-Andalus?
Well, Marcelo is still there. I think he's the only one that's like there and the owner. And then there's some other people that have built next door that were originally involved in Al-Andalus, and they have another lodge that's also sort of an eco lodge. But I think things got divided. It was a lot of partners in the beginning, and then little by little, either people sold out, and then it got more consolidated, I think, in the hands of Marcelo. So, I don't know.
And are you still in touch with Nicola Mears?
Nicola Mears is a Rio Muchacho, and she has permaculture courses like 2 or 3 times a year. She also hosts guests and volunteers, so it's a combination of an educational center and a tourism center. They do great work.
Were they at the Ecotourism Conference in Ecuador?
Absolutely not. A lot of these people can't be bothered with that stuff.
Understood. No, I suspected I knew the answer to that. Yeah, big fan. And did you know yesterday was World Permaculture Day?
I guess I missed it. Jeez. Every day is something.
It is. It is. Every day is something. Yeah. Saturday was World Labyrinth Day, and I went over to Boulder City to walk the labyrinth there. But yeah, every day is something. Good grief. So, Chris, anything else you'd like to discuss specifically? Boy, for a person who gave a presentation on communication, it's interesting seeing Chris and not hearing him. Sorry about that.
Chris, you could do the same now here.
What's that, Ivar?
I just said that Chris could do a similar presentation here without voice.
Well, we're lucky today. We hear you. Ivar's experience is also of interest in terms of looking back 20, 25 years. The Estonian Ecotourism Association just celebrated its 20th anniversary.
That's right. That's right, yeah, 2 years ago.
And how would you describe the scope of what it's done and how ecotourism has changed in Estonia, given 2 decades of time?
It is still a small movement. It is not anything really big. Maybe it's matured, so we have more people who really understand all these issues, and it's not only because of tourism development or any trainings or that kind of stuff, but I think during 20 years, world has changed quite a lot. Yeah, these discussions about the impact of tourism and the impact of other, general human behavior, it is now more on agenda of everyone.
I hear you. Of the places that you took me when I visited Estonia, the guest houses in particular interest me. Did they even exist 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or how are they doing now?
Yeah, rural farm guest house is a type of accommodation you can find in Estonia in countryside, and 20 years ago, or a little bit more, maybe soon 25 years ago, was first kind of catalog published, and it was Estonian Farmers Union who initiated this kind of catalog, and of course the network behind the catalog. And as today it is grown to association, which is rural association. They had, I think, 250 guest houses around the country.
Okay, and Chris is leaving us for a second to try to jump back in, retesting his plugins. Okay, well, let me ask you both. One of the interesting things I saw online last week was an attempt to bridge the two conferences. Now, again, I think I know the answer, that there wasn't a great deal of effort, but what did you see on the ground? Were these conferences in Poland and in Ecuador kind of connected?
We had a second day of Polish conference. I believe it was still the first day in Quito. We had a short 5 minutes Skype connection. Unfortunately, without video, just voice.
Who did you chat with?
Now we just get some greeting from organizers there, Kelly Bricker from Tires, and from Polish side, the local organizer, Thomas, was talking, so we was just listening in the audience. But it was kind of fun.
Beautiful. A good first step. Chris is back. Can we hear you, Chris? And again, see if are you muted? Because new people are always muted in a Hangout, I believe, not by me, but by the processes at work. Okay, muting, unmuting. Well, Chris is showing us in de facto how not to communicate ecotourism, but not blaming Chris. Darn plugins. We have to get you back to another chat. Let me keep on testing, Chris. Who knows what it is? Let me read what Chris wrote in the chat, in the group chat. There is no excuse for not hacking events. It was easy and effective. Sound is the biggest issue, but we managed fine. I think it comes back to the money. People pay a lot of money for participating, and the organizers may have issues with people sharing info and organizing live stream. I think it's my plugins. My presentation today is on how not to communicate ecotourism. I wanted to share that the conference in Poland was useful in bringing people together and discussing ways of moving forward. There isn't enough collaboration in Europe. between ecotourism societies and businesses, and we're looking for ways to fix this, to improve the situation. To improve the situation. All right, so there you have Chris's written points, and yeah, that goes. That just makes me think of my most popular presentation on Slideshare. It's called "We Suck at Collaboration." The presentation I made in South Africa a couple years ago, because again, why are we stuck in these silos, not sharing? Comments to Chris, Andy, or Ivar?
It's funny how removed I can be from anything that's going on in Europe as I'm in South America. So it's interesting to hear that actually some of the same issues in South America, Latin America may also be prevalent, because ecotourism has been around a long time and it's still sort of fledgling. That's why it's so strange when you hear articles saying that it's mainstream by, who was it, Richard Hammond wrote that recently, that ecotourism is going mainstream. So it's interesting to hear that you have similar problems.
It's one of the things that I've seen over the past, 10 years with a website called Planeta. I deal with people around the world, and you talk about corruption, or you talk about the lack of collaboration, and it's not it's not restrained or constrained to a given geographical area. There are problems within the entire sector. There are problems, again, just connecting tourism and conservation, and then on top of that, we have this social web confusion, of which people are, I would kind of liken it to people were very reluctant with email because they had just figured out how to work the fax machine, and now we're talking about Facebook or Twitter or Google Hangouts, and you just figured out email. And for some people, this lack of, digital literacy connected to a lack of, tourism or conservation literacy is, keeping us, jogging on the treadmill and not advancing.
Is anybody saying anything?
This is the moment of quiet.
I have one more announcement to make about the TIES conference. Apparently, Ecuador, as a nation, as a country, has adopted the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's criteria for ecotourism, for sustainable tourism. What this means, because it's a very broad declaration, but there was a plaque given from the people from the Global Sustainable Tourism Council to the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministra, and Ecuador was all excited and proud to now adopting Global Sustainable Tourism criteria. I have no idea what that will translate into real action. Ecuador has also been like the first country to grant rights to nature, that nature has a right just like a human being does, which means you can't do things against nature because nature can take you to court and sue you for doing things bad to her, I say. But that's also a very, very just on paperwork type of declaration and law in Ecuador. So I wonder what it'll translate to on the ground.
No, I hear you, and it would be helpful to have more information about GSTC. No, and the question I would pose for Ecuador is, to what degree does this law of giving nature a right, etc., how does it come into play in the Yasuni National Park, where they were talking about protecting, and now it's, we can protect it and have oil extraction. Does nature have a right in the Yasuni, or?
We used to think it did, but now we think it's just a big joke.
there were some presentations from community lodges and community tourism projects in the Yasuni. Are you familiar with any of them?
I haven't been, but I was kind of a little skeptical listening to them. I was wondering, you know, who they were and why they were presenting like this, or if they were allowed to present because their message might be a little washed out. During that presentation, there was one person in the audience who spoke up and defended Yasuni and made some criticisms on the government. Ecuador is in a weird position where it's difficult to criticize. People are scared to speak up because they may be thrown in jail and even physically harmed or killed.
I hear you, and I know these are delicate issues. Speaking as a person who's a big fan of Ecuador, I learned my Spanish there and have met many friends there. The question for me is just making the information practical, and we've gone through this dance, Andy, for nearly 20 years of having an association or organization, the Ecuador Ecotourism Association, and what to me is what's needed is are some conduits for specific Q&A sessions, and it's hard to really figure out which projects to really promote and support, which ones to know about before they kind of disappear. Again, using the Anilando Luz example, it's the first I've heard that it has gone under, but we have so much to do in terms of communication.
I was surprised to hear Anilando Luz went under too. I know a little bit of the inside story, and part of it had to do with they had a zip line and there was an accident, and they just couldn't afford to keep things going, especially when there was a catastrophe, a disaster.
You folks still have your zip line?
Oh yeah.
Safe and secure?
Very secure, very good, yeah.
Oh, why would I doubt that? No, not doubting. Chris writes, Chris writes, one thing we discussed during the conference in Europe was effective use of time. Hey, good on you. A suggestion was made to give presentations for discussion before the conference and then organize workshops at the actual conference based on the prior knowledge people gained prior to the conference. Yeah, that kind of blended learning approach. I would, watching the presentations from Ecuador, from Europe, they were all clocking in over 1 hour in time. And it's like, I was just hoping that they would be shorter. But I was also really hoping, not that the speakers were poor in any fashion. They were good presentations. They were solid. But I think where I am engaged at an event is when there's interaction. Again, where there is that Q&A session, where it's not just going to be a lone voice critical of a project. It's where you can actually have a dialogue and you can get people to figure out, well, what are our next steps? We have to get off the treadmill and start moving forward.
Yeah, but you couldn't follow our coffee breaks and evening beer drinking and even sauna sessions. So this was where it was held.
And exactly, exactly.
Exchange.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. That's when face-to-face is so valuable. And it's where, like Harrison Owen, when he created open space technology, said, well, how do we expand the coffee break? Because that's the effective time. But you don't do it just privately. You start taking notes and you put the notes on the wall and you let people know what was discussed. And you start taking responsibility for some of these actions. And I think that's a better use and a more creative use of time. But how do you organize a conference in which people aren't necessarily presenting? They're simply being present and being fully present. As in the law of 2 feet. That's the kind of event that I would love to have on the ground. But in the meantime, you make us jealous with your saunas and coffee breaks. Fantastic.
Yeah, the real connections definitely happen not during the big presentations. That's just how it goes. Always the connections are on the side.
I want to ask you to name names. Both Andy and Ivar and Chris, write it out. Can you name one or two people of which you really enjoyed meeting at the conference? Name names.
Yes, I can name. Mary Mulvey from Ecotourism Ireland was there. The only European ecotourism scheme so far who has been accredited by GSTC that he was mentioning, the global sustainable tourism criteria.
So what impressed you about meeting her?
Yeah, it's just to hear how this certification really works in practice. We have our own Estonian ecotourism scheme too. We do not call it certificate, we call it like a label. And this has a new life also since last year, so it was quite interesting to compare how it works in Ireland and here. And of course, I enjoyed very much meeting Anna Pollock, whose work I follow very tightly since I met her first time at ADTA conference 3 years ago. So it is always very inspiring to talk to Anna.
Beautiful. Andy, how about yourself?
I'm thinking about it still. There was a lot of. It was good to put faces to names that I've heard before. So for me, it was good to meet Kelly Bricker. It was good to meet actually Robert Holmes from the Green Living Project, who does films about ecotourism. It was good to meet Irene Lane, I think is her last name,
right?
who is from Green Loons in the United States, and she does sort of travel agency stuff only to places that are actually certified. She only uses the certification as the criteria of what makes a place green. But in talking to her, she was actually really willing to look into the Black Sheep Inn, not necessarily to sell trips to, but to blog about it and keep it up there that way. There's a woman, Flory, I'm trying to remember her last name. She's doing a thing called Hospitality Tour where she's traveling around giving free advice in exchange for her stays, either in marketing or in sustainable tourism initiatives. And I've been in touch with her because I saw that she was traveling through Central America and she was on her way down to South America. So she should be coming to the Black Sheep Inn sometime in the next month or so. There was an unusual stand by some architects that were from Colorado and Nicaragua, and they came to have a stand in Ecuador. And I had been contacted by this architectural firm several years ago. They were interviewing me to find out who I used as an architect, what firm I used, and how I chose my architects. And so I wrote them a very long response that was all lies because we didn't have any architects. But they liked my response enough to contact me again when they were coming down, and they actually came to the Black Sheep Inn to check it out and see it. So there were several people that I met that were interesting to meet. And in the end, who came to the Black Sheep Inn? Only those architects. So I may be a member of TIES for 15 years or so. TIES just had their 25th anniversary, and Black Sheep Inn is going to have a 20th anniversary this year, and yet nobody from TIES came here.
Ever?
I don't know, and nobody's been here yet, and there they were in Ecuador, and they still didn't come here. But there's a lot of other places to visit too. Time is limited, so.
I hear you. Well, I'm looking forward to my next trip to the Black Sheep Inn.
I need to add that, of course, it was a pleasure to meet Chris. But we will continue discussions. Chris is coming in a couple of days to Estonia, and we will have like some days, some nights in Soma.
When will that be?
I think Chris arrives Wednesday, but he has some business in Tartu. But then on Sunday we will be together, going for some bog walking and canoeing and sauna. So maybe next Monday we can join the Hangout together, if the mobile coverage there is enough.
Hey Chris, go to Estonia. They have good internet access there. We can hear you from there. Hey, by the way, Chris writes, among the people he's happy to have met, Anna Paula, Jeppe Klocker's son. Jeppe? I have no idea. Oh, apologies to Sweden.
Jeppe is from Sweden. Jeppe has been working quite extensively also in Africa for the company, I cannot remember the name now, but one of the best known safari companies in Kenya.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and now he runs a consultancy in Sweden, and he is a board member of Swedish Ecotourism Society.
Well, hopefully we can get him onto a hangout with Anders, and we can talk Sweden.
Yep. This is a good idea, maybe connect. They know each other, of course.
I bet. We're going to wind down this hangout, and if you would, please stay on the line for the post green room. But is there anything else you'd like to add while we're recording?
I would like to ask you a question. At the end of my presentation, I asked everybody to join Planeta Wiki as an editor. Have you got some requests already?
You know, it's interesting. When I woke up, was it Wednesday or Thursday morning, I'd seen that Ivar had already given a presentation and thanked me and had talked up the wiki. And the quick answer is that a lot of people are looking at that Google Doc where you can make edits and make suggestions. So far, there have been no substantive additions to that page and no other requests to be on the wiki either. That said, in the past week, we've had a number of editors editing the wiki, but alas, nothing from Europe.
Yeah, there was quite many nice people from Poland, so maybe some of them will contact you soon.
Well, I hope so. And you have to be patient. I mean, it's like throwing a person into a band room. Here with all of the instruments. Here's the tuba, here's a saxophone, here's a set of drums and guitar. What would you like to play? I don't play. Sometimes you need a helping hand, or sometimes you need a coach, or sometimes you need, some guidance. And, that's the stuff that I do and that I've been doing, either, implicitly or explicitly or implicitly in some of these hangouts. It's like, do you want to know how this works? Then come on and join it. And do you want to know how? Do you want to show me how you're using some of these things? I mean, if we look at Black Sheep Inn, Black Sheep Inn on Facebook is one of the best sources of information that I've seen that really shows you what's happening at the place and really talks, introduces you, for example, to. Andy, I'm a big fan that you brought a working model or a model of the composting toilet to Quito. Has to be one of the best educational / marketing ideas of the year. I mean, that was just brilliant because we can explain it on paper or in photo, but to see it in person and to seeing you sitting on the crapper, no, that's an event I'd like to attend.
I gave him shit.
And that's what it's all about. That was beautiful. Anything else from you, Andy?
No, it's good to actually get in one of these Hangouts. I think I've only done this once before, and it was just directly with you, Ron. So thank you for the invite, and it's great to see some faces. Ivar, I've heard lots about you, mostly probably through Ron, but it's nice to finally see you. And Chris, I'd love to meet you too. It's great to know there's colleagues out there doing similar work across the globe, even though we're very far away.
Thank you, Andy. I have also heard long time about Black Sheep Inn, but never knew the face behind, so now I know.
Hey, Chris writes, sorry I couldn't communicate. Thanks to everyone for sharing your news and views, and come on over to Greece. So there's an invite. Viewers, thank you for watching. As always, please watch this and share this on YouTube. Participants, if you have any links or materials you'd like to share on the Google event page, go ahead and do so. And yeah, we'll schedule another Hangout next Monday. Also on the list of Hangouts, Deborah McLaren and I are co-hosting a month-long series of talks on Fridays, 10 a.m. Las Vegas, 12 p.m. Minneapolis, St. Paul, all about responsible local travel in the US of A. So please join us then. On behalf of everybody, thank you very much. And as a reminder, yes, Chocoluchi, the chocolate worth fighting for from Oaxaca de Juarez, Mexico, proud co-sponsor of our Hangouts. And thank you, everybody.